Tonight, on Legislative Review. Expanding the tax on nicotine products. Plus, exempting juveniles from prison riot charges. And protecting witnesses in workplace harassment and discrimination cases. You're watching Legislative Review. Thank you for watching Legislative Review. I'm Angela Nolasco with today's top discussions in the state legislature. In the afternoon of Monday, April 7th, the House Appropriations Committee heard a bill that aims to expand how tobacco products are defined under the state's tax code. House Bill 2033, sponsored by Democratic Representative Monica Stonier, seeks to include products that contain nicotine, whether naturally or synthetically derived, under the tax to generate over $100 million in tax revenue by 2029. If passed, products like synthetic nicotine pouches, like the popular cessation brand Zyn, would face a nicotine tax, which is 95% of its taxable sales price. Currently, nicotine pouches are not taxed the same way as traditional tobacco products, like cigars and smokeless tobacco. The bill would subject them to the same taxes, aimed at discouraging their use by young Washingtonians to reduce the risk of nicotine addiction. Proponents like public health experts say that nicotine pouches, while often marketed as a smoking cessation tool, can still pose significant health risks, especially when used in excessive amounts. They hope that making nicotine products less affordable would help curb their appeal to young people. Audrey Miller Garcia of the American Cancer Society testified in favor of the bill.
It is important that all tobacco products, including nicotine pouches, are taxed at a parallel rate to encourage people to quit rather than switch to a cheaper product. Products like Zyn have not been validated and approved by the FDA to help people quit using tobacco products.
On the other hand, critics argue that nicotine pouches are a safer alternative to cigarettes, and that raising taxes will only push users back to more harmful combustible tobacco products. They worry that it could lead to cross-border shopping or a rise in black market sales, as other states don't tax nicotine pouches as heavily. Crystal Leatherman of the Washington Retail Association spoke to oppose the bill.
Washington is the third highest for smuggled cigarettes and tobacco products in the state because of our high taxes. There is concern that adding a high tax to a product that's being viewed as a cessation tool could unintentionally impact and actually aggravate that situation even worse.
According to a fiscal note, House Bill 2033 would cost $723,000 to implement in the first 2 years and would generate $132 million over the first 4 years if approved. On Tuesday morning, state senators gathered on the floor to debate several bills. Among them, House Bill 1815, concerning riots in juvenile detention facilities and how they're handled under the Department of Children, Youth and Families, or DCYF. The bill, which passed the House last month on a 64-33 vote, would exclude these facilities from prison riot charges, offering relief to young people convicted or adjudicated for a prison riot offense, allowing them to apply for resentencing or for their charges to be vacated. This would remove the impact of these charges, which can carry lengthy sentences, and bar them from accessing rehabilitative services. Supporters say this would address the overpopulation problem in facilities like Green Hill School in Lewis County, the state's only facility for juveniles charged with prison riot offenses. They also believe it will be more fair, especially when a juvenile's involvement in an incident might not even qualify as a riot by most standards. Democratic Senator Claire Wilson of Federal Way spoke in favor of the bill.
Charges are often brought against young people getting into fistfights and not stopping the fight when told to do so. They often are brought also against young people who are in the way and get into a fight and are not part of that fight. It is seriously problematic behavior, I will agree with that, but not what most would consider a riot. There are consequences for bad behaviors, but instead of facing a prison riot charge, juveniles would be charged with other more specific offenses, like custodial assault, which is a Class C felony, assault 1, a Class A felony, assault 2, a Class B felony, assault 3, a Class C felony, or 4, a gross misdemeanor.
However, critics argue it waters down accountability, will encourage more riots to happen, burden the court system in handling resentencing cases, and will be costly. Speaking against the bill, Republican Senator John Braun from Lewis County.
But the idea that somehow, because that is wrong, riots don't occur is not accurate. They do occur. Previous speaker mentioned this, an older one, but just last week there was charges for a 25-person riot at Greenhill. 2 people was a fight, or 3 people was likely a fight. 25 people involved in malicious activity inside Greenhill School, I think could probably reasonably be considered a riot. So why are we doing it this way? Why are we saying, hey, we got it wrong? And we do get it wrong sometimes, Mr. President. Therefore, we should throw the whole thing out. That doesn't make sense to me. We need time, the agency needs time to make this work properly.
The Senate voted on the bill.
Mr. President, there are 27 aye, 21 nay, 1 excused.
Having received a constitutional majority and gross substitute House Bill 1815 as amended by the Senate is declared passed. The title of the bill will be the title of the act.
Having passed the Senate, the bill heads back to the House for further review. During the hearing, it was amended to take effect immediately after being signed into law.
An act relating to disclosure of information pertaining to complainants, accusers, and witnesses in an employment investigation.
The Senate went on to debate House Bill 1934, which gained the House's approval last month. It aims to protect the identity of complainants, accusers, and witnesses in discrimination or harassment cases in the workplace by amending Washington's Public Records Act. It would require the redaction of names, images, job titles, and contact information of complainants, accusers, and witnesses once investigations are complete. If passed, it would also mandate that audio recordings be altered to obscure the voices of those involved, to protect their identity while keeping their tone and inflection to maintain context. The bill comes on the heels of a case in Spokane Valley, where a city council member used the public records law to publicly identify and allegedly harass individuals who had complained about bullying and harassment. Supporters believe it will encourage employees to come forward with complaints, knowing they can be shielded from retaliation. Republican Senator Jeff Wilson spoke in favor of the bill.
I think it's a good step forward for sends a message to all of our workplaces that this is the way things are going to be handled in fairness.
Echoing his stance, Democratic Senator Javier Valdez also spoke in support.
We want to ensure that folks are being harassed or bullied or need to go to someone or have an investigation done about conduct at the workplace. We want to make sure that we encourage that and not discourage that. And I think here on House Bill 1934, it's a good bill to make sure that, of course, will continue.
The Senate passed the bill on a unanimous vote.
Mr. President, there are 48 ayes, 1 nay.
Having received a constitutional majority, House Bill 1934 as amended by the Senate is declared passed. The title of the bill will be the title of the act.
House Bill 1934 now goes back to the House for approval after being amended on the Senate floor to exempt redaction for complaints made by elected officials. That's it for this episode of Legislative Review. Make sure to join us nightly at 8 and 11 for your highlights on the state legislature. And follow us on social media. Have a good night.